Cycle time helps us understand how long it takes for us to complete one individual item. And so we're using cycle time, which is a total of the elapsed time it takes from when a work item moves from start to finish. You'll see we keep coming back to start and finish points. We'll talk about that here in a minute, but it's really important that we have a really clear starting point so that we can determine when the clock starts, and a really clear finish point in our workflow so we know when the clock stops. That seems really obvious, I think, when we're talking about cycle time, but I can't tell you how many organizations I've worked with who, even inside of one team, may all be considering different parts of the process, their start and finish points. So the first thing you need to do to be able to successfully measure your cycle time is determine where the clock starts and where it stops. Let's take a quick look at where you can visualize cycle time. Julia?
Yeah, so just like I was talking in the throughput about understanding the likelihood of, forecast of what could happen. And throughput is all about the rate at which you finish work. So that's used for understanding likelihoods about finishing collections of work, multiple items. Cycle time, because it's the measure of individual items, how long they each take. We can look at how long all of the individual items have taken in the past, and we can understand some information or the likelihoods of how long it will take you to get future work items done. So if you click next, I can talk about these two things together. So there, in Actionable Agile Analytics, there are many, many different ways to see cycle time. There's histograms, heat maps, process behavior charts, and here we have a scatter plot. All these dots, it looks like a Jackson Pollock painting. It's just one or more items. Each dot is one or more items, and it is placed based on the day it finished and how many days its cycle time was. So from when it passed the start to when it passed the finish. You don't get any deductions for smoke breaks, holidays, weekends, anything like that. It's a complete elapsed time. And so you can learn a lot by looking at these patterns. Why do we have this white space here? I can look and I can see, around April the 13th, I've got lots sort of in a line. We released a lot of stuff. And those things we released were really variety from, 1 day up to almost 39 days old. So it's like a batch, right? So I can see batches. I can see all kinds of different things. I learn how to read patterns. But actually, the coolest way that I've used this with clients and customers before is when they say, well, which data should we use to forecast with? We look at this chart and we talk about what happened at these different points. Well, why did this happen? Why did that happen? And through talking about that, we discover information about your context. And then we sort of uncover the place where the last major context change was. And we say, okay, then we'll just use the data from that point forward to use for our forecasting and whatnot. And so when we know which piece of the data is relevant to going forward, we can look and say, okay, well, 95% of those items took 23 days or less to finish. So if you want to know how long it'll take us to get a piece of work done, is that a good enough answer? 23 days or less. It could be 1 day, it could be 23, but somewhere in that range, right? And also, when you're looking at this and people are talking about predictability of delivery times, this is where you're starting to see this. So these expressions of likelihood give you an idea of your predictability, because to get pretty confident, if you have to have a really wide range of cycle times, then you're not extremely predictable at this point. And then what you can do is use my favorite flow metric, which is coming up next, to help us improve that range and get that down farther. But at any rate, you can come here, you can see how long it's taken you to do stuff in the past. You can give those as internal service level expectations for your team to expect from themselves and improve on. But you also, of course, have the option to share that with other people who are asking you these questions and give that as sort of an SLE or an SLA or whatever you want to call it, but a probabilistic forecast. Awesome. Yeah, and
all right. Yeah, let's go to Rita. So Rita, tell us a little bit about how you use cycle time with your team.
Yes, so this is almost like before and after screenshots, and I know it's very hard to see. So on the left-hand side, I posted a screenshot when we started with flow metrics in one of the teams, and I just posed a question. So can you tell me, can you see a signal here in this slide? And I explained obviously before in a bit of educational piece how we look at the cycle time. We want to see the cluster and all that sort of thing. And everyone's like, oh, that top item that takes 38 days, that is our signal. That something went wrong here. I was like, okay, what about all these other scattered dots that are still quite high, but they're just very difficult to tell you where is the noise then. And then on the right hand side, the noise started to go a bit down. We started to improve things. We started to look on and reflect on things together. We started to look at those high dots, and in our retros we posed a question: what could we do differently next time? What happened with this item? Does anyone remember? Was it more difficult? And it could be a range of things. There were dependencies. Someone was ill. Someone was not able to pick up that work while other people were away. Sometimes there was a third-party dependencies and things like that. But by starting to talk about it, we were able to go from 17 days or less under 85 percentile down to 7 days or less. And now we are almost at like 5 days and less, and we keep that number going down. As soon as there is a little bit of up, we can straight away see it as soon as possible and reflect on it. And when you look at that right hand side, it's much easier to see there's that one single dot up there somewhere in the corner. What happened there? What I seen doing in some organizations or heard doing is like comparing teams, like, you're supposed to do this in 3 days or less. Kanban says you need to deliver things in 3 days or less, or 4 days or less. Don't concentrate on number just sort of people start to be very defensive. So you think I need to finish things in this, or you think I can't finish earlier, or no, we don't think anything. What we want to see is the cluster. And once you start to see that, start to reduce it as much as you can. It's continuous improvement mindset. We're not supposed to get to a number straight away. We don't know if it's a good or bad. We look at the data together and ask a question. What do you think? If you would be waiting for an item and Amazon tells you now that it's going to be delivered in 15 days, maybe less, would you be happy with that? Maybe not. If it starts to go down and you're starting to improve things, that means somebody can get that much quicker. You get feedback. You understand what mistakes you made or how happy you made customers in the end of the day. And reducing that and getting more predictable means that your forecast will be way more predictable. So when we started with the first data, we would say, oh yeah, forecast says it's going to take us 2 months. You come to 2 months and it says, oh, it's still 2 weeks, it's still another month, and this and that, where now variation reduced massively. In some teams, data still shows, oh, it's going to be delivered in 5 weeks, where we actually are now able to hit not only the 5 weeks, but sometimes deliver sooner than that what forecast is telling you. Another is, again, quite important thing is the type of work. If you are forecasting on bugs, but you're doing like massive project where your single ticket is 8 days, like, don't do that. Like, consider what sort of a data you're using and forecast on a data that on the work sort of issue types or similar areas that is going to happen in the future. And that is a bit, as I call it, a bit magic when you start to forecast, because people first of all are going to get defensive and they'll be like, no, we can deliver sooner, or no, this is not our cycle time because you included weekends. I was like, yes. And an interesting thing came out by reflecting on these things. People felt that they had to pick up ticket, like 5 to 5 on Friday night. Just going to bring this ticket into progress, so my name is attached and at least everybody see that I'm doing something. And it's like you come to Monday and it's already like quite a few days in, right? And they're like, no, I didn't start in it, I just brought that in progress. Yes. And that's how the clock started. You start to dig a bit deeper. Why did you need it to do that? You know that you're just going to clock off in a couple of minutes, right? So there's that piece that people feel like they need to pick up things, they need to bring them in, just to sort of look busy or whatever. And you can always say, look, attach your name while it's still to do. Like, that was a really good, start to look at it, make yourself familiar, but you're not starting the actual work. Let's consider that you are starting on Monday rather than 5 to 5 on Friday, right? It's always this, always need to look for people reactions and something what is unsaid, and sometimes one-to-one conversations with your teammates might be the best way to go, to introduce the concept again, to talk about it, and to understand why certain things are happening, and why people feel like they need to bring items just before weekend. But that journey takes a while for people to understand that it's a duration. And if you're going to say that you're delivering something in 20 days, your stakeholders will be looking at 20 days from now, not like you Monday to Friday, Monday to Friday, Monday to Friday, and you're basically in the next month.